When someone's in a teaching position, they're told not to preach about their political beliefs because it influences the children's minds. They hold a position that portrays a lot of knowledge and wisdom, which means a lot of stupid kids look up to them. It can also isolate children who have different political beliefs than the teacher. Many of my teachers, however, never seem to get that memo or are simply ignoring it. I'm going to be covering some of the most egregious examples of my stupid liberal teachers spouting liberal propaganda. This was during my senior year of high school, and it was the first time I got to vote. So, my class was ripe for the manipulating. Certain teachers in my senior year straight up ignored the fact that they aren't allowed to influence us politically. For instance, when my math teacher heard Trump's name uttered by someone in our class, and she immediately and sternly said, "Don't vote for Donald Trump." Believe it or not, I actually appreciate how not subtle she was. At least she didn't pretend to be innocent of influencing students, unlike two of my other teachers. Two of my other teachers would be insulting Trump, like normal, and then say something along the lines of, "I shouldn't be saying this though, in case there's that one Trump supporter in this classroom." One of the main points of following this rule is so that you don't isolate people with differing political opinions. But when you say that, it sounds like you're saying, "I shouldn't be saying this, in case there's that one weird kid who actually likes Trump, in case there's that one fringe minority freakazoid who actually thinks Trump would make a good president." Doing this dumb pseudo-correction of yourself only isolates those Trump supporters in your classroom more than if you insulted Trump and left it at that. Now I'm in college. It was my first semester, which also happens to be the semester in which the 2016 election was held. Just like my teachers during my senior year of high school, my professors felt the need to splurge their political beliefs all over my face without even asking for consent. For example, in my Western civilization class, my teacher is one of those teachers that emphasizes looking at unbiased, objective facts and drawing your own conclusion. This professor obviously doesn't live up to her own beliefs. She was talking about the shift of power from the Roman Senate to the consuls, and how power tends to be left in the hands of fewer and fewer people over time. She explains how this trend is manifesting itself in the United States right now. She says, "That's why we have to make sure the people we vote for will be responsible with that power. We can't vote in somebody with a bad temperament to have access to our nuclear codes." And in case you had any doubts about whether or not she was talking about Trump, she immediately went on a rant about how it's not up to the president to decide how to handle immigration. But she never explicitly says Trump in case she were to get in trouble for saying any of this. So let me get this clear. She says that the movement of power to the president isn't something we should necessarily be afraid of, and then goes on to say that the idea of a president having an influence on immigration policy is out of line. This is beat for beat liberal propaganda. But listen, it's all about the facts with no bias. She would always say, "The gray matter in your brain is precious, and you don't want to fill it with propaganda." But then she proceeds to fill it up with propaganda. That same teacher felt she needed to correct the record about Karl Marx. She said, "People always say he invented communism or socialism. He didn't. All he did was propose Marxism, in which people in a small community would give all they could to that community and take only what they needed." Okay, fine. Even though Marx laid out the framework for things like socialism and communism, he didn't explicitly create it. I'll give that to her. But then she says something borderline retarded. "He was actually more libertarian if you think about it." She must be saying this because Marx wasn't a big fan of large government, but she doesn't understand the reasoning behind libertarianism and how it conflicts with Marxism. Libertarianism is about preserving individuals' personal liberties, whereas with Marxism, there are no individual liberties. It's all about the collective community. The form of economy that best represents libertarian values, like one's right to work as much as they want, the right to do what they want with their money that they earned with as little government intervention as possible, is capitalism, which is exactly what Marxism was introduced to counter. So my professor either doesn't know what Marxism is, or doesn't know what libertarianism is. Either way, she told us that Marx was libertarian. Last but not least, my communications teacher. It was the day we learned about diversity and gender. She decided to cover gender and sex like this. She wrote down male and female under sex and said,
So when we talk about sex, we talk about someone's physical body. You know, like XX chromosomes, XY chromosomes. But like, what about people who have XXY or XYY chromosomes?
Yes, this is known as Klinefelter syndrome and XYY syndrome, both of which, in total, affect less than 0.2% of the US population.
We shouldn't discriminate against those people.
No one's discriminating against them. Anyway, she goes on to list all of the various genders, like transsexuals, gender fluid, non-binary people, some third gender, explaining how gender is a social construct. After she finishes, she points to all of it and asks,
What do we call people who don't believe that these genders exist?
First of all, what kind of question is that? All it does is encourage name-calling and devaluing other people's opinions. So my teacher asks this, and surprise, surprise, someone answers this question by saying, assholes. And the teacher said that it was wrong to call people assholes because they have a different belief than our own, and says to approach every opinion with an open mind. No, I'm kidding. All she did was smile and nod, and then the cuck of the classroom answers from his high pedestal of open-minded knowledge, saying,
I think those people are just uneducated.
To which my teacher responds with,
Yes, I just think those people are uneducated. Hopefully your guys' generation will educate those people and fix the problem of discrimination based on gender. My generation certainly didn't do it.
The reason why your generation didn't have to fix anything was because there was nothing to fix. There was no one to educate. Nobody 20 years ago even thought of identifying as gender fluid or both genders at the same time, or that mysterious third gender. This is probably the most obvious case of indoctrination I've seen. My teacher doesn't even give the hint that other people's opinions on gender might be valid. They're just uneducated assholes though, because their argument is bigoted and hateful. That's all it amounts to. Academia is full of retards, and hopefully, as my years at college go by, I can report these crimes against intellect to you, the viewer. Now, what can we pull away from all this? College is dumb, higher educators are dumb. God bless.